Former Brooklyn rapper Casanova, whose real name is Coswell Sr., isn't going back to his hometown streets anytime soon. The self-proclaimed Blood gang member who pleaded guilty to federal drug conspiracy charges last year was involved in a vicious fight yesterday at the Essex County Correctional Facility.
On camera, a scuffle between a Camden County corrections officer and an inmate. That corrections officer was suspended without pay and ordered to undergo remedial training
after he allegedly helped smuggle contraband into the justice facility. 33-year-old Christopher Piccioni is facing second-degree official misconduct and conspiracy to commit official misconduct. Officials say the investigation began in January after the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office received information about contraband being smuggled into the facility in Mays Landing.
Hudson County Sheriff's officer is dead after falling out of a 9th-story window. 29-year-old Justin Rivera on duty when the accident happened. His death leaving the entire community in shock.
A crackdown on inmates continues this morning at the Passaic jail in New Jersey. Officials foiled a plot by prisoners that was supposed to take place this weekend. The plan was to set several fires to create a diversion and included the killing of jail guards.
The prisoner still on the run after escaping from officers. Police say 34-year-old David Riley got away from Cumberland County corrections officers yesterday morning at the Cumberland County Jail in Upper Deerfield Township.
New Jersey's county jails are often overshadowed by the state's notorious prisons, yet behind their walls lies a history of violence and neglect rivaling any penitentiary. These are short-term detention facilities, waypoints for pretrial detainees or those serving minor sentences, but they have witnessed deadly riots, brutal gang clashes, abusive staff conduct, inmate suicides, and conditions so deplorable that watchdogs have labeled them inhumane. This documentary-style narrative shines a light on some of New Jersey's most dangerous county jails, weaving recent incidents from the last 5 years with historical flashbacks. The stories that follow of gang reprisals, riots, abuse, and tragedy are drawn from official reports, investigative journalism, and advocacy groups, painting a sobering picture of life and death in these facilities. Each section focuses on a particular jail, recounting specific events and systemic issues in a voice fit for a gritty expose.
Former Brooklyn rapper Casanova, whose real name is Coswell Sr., isn't going back to his hometown streets anytime soon. The self-proclaimed Blood gang member who pleaded guilty to federal drug conspiracy charges last year was involved in a vicious fight yesterday at the Essex County Correctional Facility in Newark. These internal reports from correction officers say Sr. was slashed with a weapon by another inmate, Ulysses Lugo, and then chased him down with the help of others. Since March before yesterday, there were 17 codes, inmate-on-inmate assaults or inmate-on-officer assaults. Ironically, yesterday's violence came on the same day that a jury found 3 inmates guilty of the 2021 jail beating of Jayshawn Boyd. 2 were convicted of attempted. Boyd suffered permanent brain damage. His family has filed a civil lawsuit against the county.
An inmate at the Essex County Correctional Facility has been charged with murder for allegedly stabbing a fellow inmate last week. The acting Essex County prosecutor charged the inmate with first-degree murder and unlawful possession of a weapon.
Essex County Correctional Facility, New Jersey's largest county jail, has long been synonymous with violence and disorder. One Sunday in January 2025 captured the crisis. An inmate slammed another prisoner headfirst onto concrete, causing catastrophic spinal injuries. Within hours, 2 officers and a responding sergeant were assaulted and hospitalized. That evening, 3 inmates ambushed an inmate trustee. Officials and staff said the day reflected a year of repeated assaults. The jail, nicknamed the Big Green Monster, has a documented history of violence, excessive isolation, poor medical care, and safety lapses. After a 2019 federal inspection flagged serious risks, the county created a civilian oversight task force, yet by 2025 the ACLU criticized it for falling short on transparency and enforcement. Gang dynamics intensify the volatility. In June 2023, rapper Casanova was slashed in a brawl days after renouncing his gang. The most chilling case remains Jayshawn Boyd 2021, a 22-year-old with schizophrenia placed in a gang unit despite no affiliations. Within minutes he was beaten by 7 inmates, kicked, doused, bludgeoned with a broomstick, and struck with a microwave while no officer intervened, leaving him in a coma. Together, the fatal stabbing that month, Boyd's maiming, and recurring staff injuries show a dangerous cycle. A modern complex housing 2,000-plus people that functions as a powder keg of gang rivalries, overstressed staff, and at-risk detainees where violence can erupt without warning.
A tragic accident in New Jersey where a Hudson County sheriff's officer is dead after falling out of a 9th-story window. 29-year-old Justin Rivera on duty when the accident happened. His death leaving the entire community in shock.
The shards of glass glistening in the night tell a story just as chilling as it is bizarre. This is the window, now boarded up, after a Hudson County sheriff's officer plunged from the 9th floor to his death.
A hunger strike at Hudson County Jail is growing. According to the immigrant activist group Abolish ICE, there are now more than 60 people in ICE custody refusing meals for a 5th day, demanding to be released to fight their deportation cases from home amid health concerns during this pandemic.
Hudson County's most infamous jail incident remains the 1989 riot at the Old Jersey City facility. On the night of December 6, 1989, more than 50 prisoners erupted in a night-long standoff inside an overcrowded, antiquated jail. Officers used less lethal shotgun rounds to regain control until one guard mistakenly chambered a live 12-gauge shell. The blast deleted 28-year-old Kenneth Johnson instantly. By the time order was restored the next day, 5 to 6 officers were injured. Officials called it an inadvertent, deadly ammunition mix-up, a stark reminder of how fast riot control can turn fatal when pressure, poor training, and chaos collide. Conditions in the 1980s, severe overcrowding, poor sanitation, chronic tension primed Hudson for violence, and problems didn't vanish with the move to the new Kearney jail. In the 2010s to 2020s, assaults on staff, hunger strikes, and criticisms over medical care kept the facility in the headlines. A 2018 review labeled conditions for ICE detainees inhumane. One meaningful change came in 2021, when county leaders under community pressure ended the ICE detention contract and pledged more oversight. Still, the legacy of 1989 hangs over Hudson County. In a volatile county jail, one spark can trigger catastrophe, and even well-meant use of force decisions can have deadly consequences.
What's your side of the story? Quietly.
You're a bully.
He's a bully? So what'd you do to stop him?
I called him out.
And you guys just fought?
Yep. Somebody spilled the tray on the floor, right?
I said without yelling. Lower your voice.
Somebody spilled the tray on the floor.
Right.
And it hit somebody.
Right.
So he tells me, why you picking on? He tell me I'm picking on a week. Like, I ain't picking on a week. So when I put my bubbles on, he just start welling off on me.
I'm gonna get witness statements from the rest of the day. I'm gonna see what they say, all right? Odds aren't in your favor that you're gonna come out smelling like roses on this one because you're in a fight every week.
A crackdown on inmates continues this morning at the Passaic Jail in New Jersey. Officials foiled a plot by prisoners that was supposed to take place this weekend. The plan was to set several fires to create a diversion and included the jail guards. Officials say jail gangs were behind the plot.
The jail inmates were forced to evacuate the prison just after 3 o'clock this afternoon when the fire broke out. The fire was under control 2 hours later. 4 sheriff's officers and 2 firefighters were treated for smoke inhalation. The fire started in a storage room in the jail's basement.
Tonight, police say they are searching for this escaped prisoner. Investigators say Isaiah Felix was being transported to the Passaic County Jail early this morning when he ran off. Police searched for hours near Grand and Mill Streets in Patterson. They say still no sign of him.
Passaic County Jail Patterson has seen violence from both inmates and staff. In April 2020, one day after a detainee tested positive for COVID-19, a maximum security unit refused lock-in over safety concerns. At least 6 inmates barricaded doors and set bedsheets on fire, filling the tier with smoke during a 5-hour standoff. Deputies in riot gear ultimately used pepper spray, extinguished the fires, and regained control. The inmates were charged with rioting, arson, and assault. The episode captured pandemic-era desperation inside New Jersey jails, even as the state temporarily released up to 1,000 low-risk detainees. Fear inside the walls still boiled over. Months later, a different danger surfaced: staff abuse. In January 2021, after a pretrial detainee squirted a urine mixture on an officer. 2 sergeants and an officer escorted him to a camera blind spot and beat him while handcuffed, sending him to the hospital. They filed no use of force reports and later met to agree on a false story. The cover-up collapsed under FBI and U.S. attorney scrutiny. By 2024-2025, guilty pleas rolled in, including Sergeant Donald Vinal's May 2025 for civil rights violations and obstruction.
This 11-second video on July 3, 2023 captures Camden County Sergeant Corrections Officer 37-year-old Joshua Beecham walking an inmate to a glass door that led to an isolation cell when suddenly words are exchanged and Beecham pushes the inmate into the door. The inmate hits his head and collapses.
Just another incident inside the Camden County Jail.
Local minister and president for Camden County's NAACP chapter says mistreatment of inmates at that jail are common.
It appears that this is being the norm now for the Camden County Sheriff Department inside the jail.
March 24th, just before noon inside the Camden County Jail, 23-year-old Muslim inmate Zaire Ratliff is participating in Ramadan, a 1-month period of fasting and prayer. Jail Administrator Rob Mastriani says the jail was accommodating Ratliff's religious practice. So the noon meal is given to them with their evening meal. Despite that accommodation, investigators say Ratliff chose to get in the lunch line with the other inmates. This is him at the bottom of your screen, and this is him again from another angle. To the staff, he is not supposed to be here. As a result, Corrections Officer Jay Anderson asked Ratliff to leave the line. This camera angle recorded the verbal exchange between Ratliff and Anderson. After several commands to Ratliff to get out, Anderson gets another officer to help him. This is what the other camera recorded. A tussle between Anderson and Ratliff led to what appears to be strikes to Ratliff's face while he is on the ground. Then we see a female corrections officer stop Anderson from throwing more strikes before placing Ratliff in handcuffs. There are more inmates than officers in that block.
A former Camden County deputy and jail supervisor, well, they're headed to prison for their role in a 2022 beating of a detainee. The Department of Justice says Ryan Bajel pleaded guilty in January to using unreasonable force. Now, this attack was caught on video, and it did spark national outrage. It shows 3 deputies take a look beating Jared Hobbs, who was in custody on traffic and drug charges. Now, according to the Department of Justice, Bajel punched and kneed Hobbs more than 25 times. Following a GBI investigation, the 2 other deputies, Mason Garrett and Braxton Massey, are also fired and charged.
Right now on First Coast News at 6, new video of an inmate being beaten inside a Camden County jail cell as demands for justice are going national.
And the man you are seeing getting hit is 41-year-old Jared Hobbs. Lawyers say he was suffering from a psychological episode.
It's a place where they make their own rules and whatever they say goes. Once you come through that door, it's their rules and this is what it is. If you don't do what they want, yeah, this is the type of things that happen. And there's just certain incidents that have made it to be revealed. There's multiple incidents because I've been to this jail a few times from 2017 till now, and I myself have seen over 30 incidents. I know none of them have came to the light.
Lawsuit has been filed against the Camden County Jail and Sheriff's Office. The lawsuit was filed by former inmate Joshua Miller over allegations 3 correctional officers beat him. Now, Miller was in jail for not showing up in court for a forgery case. Miller claims the officers violated his constitutional rights after an incident in the jail back in August.
Camden, New Jersey's violence doesn't stop at the jailhouse door. At the Camden County Correctional Facility, a recent case turned fatal. On June 13, 2025, officers found Edward D. Brooks unresponsive in a 2-man cell. Surveillance later showed his cellmate, Shaquan Shields, had repeatedly punched Brooks in the head and face the afternoon before, leaving him unconscious. No one discovered the assault for nearly a day. By the time medical help arrived, Brooks was pronounced dead. Both men were pretrial detainees. Shields, initially charged with second-degree manslaughter, later upgraded to homicide, awaits trial. The demise raised hard questions about supervision, rounds, and headcounts inside Camden's jail. Sadly, Brooks's death isn't an outlier. The facility has seen prior inmate-on-inmate deletions, including a 2019 dorm beating, frequent gang spillover from Camden Street's Bloods, Crips, Latin Kings, and recurring debates over use of force after tense staff encounters. Mental health crises compound the danger. In 2020, a man died by suicide less than 24 hours after intake, spotlighting screening and treatment gaps. For a documentary viewer, the Brooks Shields case crystallizes the larger pattern. In a crowded county lockup with limited resources, one misclassification or missed round can be the difference between survival and tragedy, and violence can unfold quietly, overnight, leaving grief and unanswered questions.
A corrections officer is facing official misconduct charges. An Atlantic County Jail corrections officer is charged with official misconduct after he allegedly helped smuggle contraband into the justice facility. 33-year-old Christopher Piccioni is facing second-degree official misconduct and conspiracy to commit official misconduct. Officials say the investigation began in January after the Atlantic County Prosecutor's Office received information about contraband being smuggled into the facility in Mays Landing. The type of contraband was not detailed in the release, but previous charges filed against an inmate indicate it was possibly cell phones.
Atlantic County Justice Facility, Mays Landing, has seen violence so extreme it stunned investigators. The most harrowing case unfolded on September 13, 2022, when Shocker Abid, without warning, ambushed cellmate Hassan Robinson in a holding cell. Surveillance shows Abid punching Robinson repeatedly, then kicking and stomping his head, even dragging his limp body from under a bench to continue the assault before calmly surrendering. Robinson was left in a coma with catastrophic brain injuries, paralyzed and unable to speak, and died in August 2024. Prosecutors signaled the case could be upgraded from attempted deletion to homicide. With no clear motive and Abid already facing violent charges, the attack raised urgent questions about classification, monitoring, and cell assignment. A year later, in July 2023, Osnier Hayes admitted he strangled and beat his 52-year-old cellmate Kenneth Raymond to death. Hayes later accepted a 21-year manslaughter plea. Back-to-back deletions underscored a pattern of inmate-on-inmate homicide at the facility. Families and advocates pressed the county. How are cellmates paired? Were red flags missed? In response, officials said they reviewed double bunking protocols, especially for detainees with mental health or aggression concerns, and pledged improvements like better surveillance and alert systems.
The prisoner still on the run after escaping from officers. Police say 34-year-old David Riley got away from Cumberland County Corrections officers yesterday morning at the Cumberland County Jail in Upper Deerfield Township. This is him right here. He's described.
Cumberland County Jail Bridgeton shows how deadly jail violence can be invisible. Between 2014 to 2018, 7 pretrial detainees died by suicide, many while in opioid withdrawal or medical crisis. Families and watchdogs labeled the jail a suicide factory, citing failures in screening, monitoring, and basic precautions. David Hennis repeatedly begged for help before hanging himself. Alyssa Allen was found dead 2 days after intake on a minor charge. Amid mounting pressure, the DOJ Civil Rights Division opened a probe in 2018 and, in January 2021, found reasonable cause that Cumberland showed deliberate indifference, especially by denying medication-assisted treatment for people detoxing from opioids. In May 2023, the county agreed to a federal consent decree, expand mental health care, overhaul suicide prevention practices, and provide MET during withdrawal. By then, the county had paid nearly $2.4 million to families of the 7 victims, and 4 officers faced criminal charges tied to 3 deaths. Allegations included falsified observation logs. Today, the jail is under strict federal monitoring. Staffing, training, and suicide watch protocols have been strengthened, and MET is now available. Still, the stigma remains. Cumberland's story is the quietest kind of jail violence, not beatings or riots, but neglect, missed rounds, untreated illness, and the fatal solitude of a cell where help never came. From the melee on a winter morning in Newark to the night-long riot in Jersey City, from lethal beatings in Camden and Atlantic County to the quiet horrors of Cumberland's suicide crisis, New Jersey's county jails have shown how quickly holding areas can become arenas of violence. Gang rivalries, mental health breakdowns, staff misconduct, and overcrowding create a volatile mix where people awaiting trial may fight for their lives, and under-resourced officers face daily threats, sometimes crossing lines themselves. There are glimmers of progress: civilian oversight boards, federal consent decrees, and growing legislative attention. Some counties have closed aging facilities or consolidated operations, signaling that what happens inside these jails is a public concern, not an out-of-sight problem. Still, the lessons are stark. When basic safety and health needs are ignored, catastrophe follows. The plea from families, wounded officers, and advocates is the same: don't look away. Violence here isn't inevitable. It is shaped by choices and policies that can change. Until sustained scrutiny and reform turn these places into true centers of care and accountability, the stories of Essex, Hudson, Passaic, Camden, Atlantic, and Cumberland, and the names Jason Boyd, Edward Brooks, Hassan Robinson, and others stand as a warning about the human cost of neglect.